I've seen people right now, especially in a hot market, people paying $20 all the way up to $60,000 over market value because they just don't know where market value truly is. When we're investing in property, we are always looking for the best possible deal. So in today's video, we're going to break down some of the tips that we've learned to help you buy properties under market value. We're going to talk a bit more about market timing and how you can use that to your advantage. We're going to talk about some negotiation strategies and relationship building with the agents and just some of the things that we've learned.
You know, one of my favorite things in life is getting something for a bargain.
So thrifty you are, right?
I love it. Like, I can't help myself. It's just in my nature to negotiate, to try and find the best value. But what I've learned as a real estate investor is there's times where you do have an advantage, where you do have the opportunity to buy something cheap. And then there's times where you're literally paying $100,000 more than it was worth a year ago. But because of where things are at in the cycle, things are on their way. So I suppose the very first thing that you need to know is it really depends on the market. If it's a market like the coronavirus in 2020, there was incredible buying opportunities around. You saw the stock market drop by 40% around the world. You saw property prices in a lot of areas come back for a window of time. If you think back to a market like the global financial crisis, which was back in 2008 to 2012, yep. Huge amounts of deals, and they've made movies on these deals like The Big Short and things like that. America went on sale, massive amounts of property in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane went on sale. I heard people buying places that were worth $3,000 a year, $3,000.
I wish.
$3 million the year before in Noosa for $500,000 off the bank. So, you know, they're the best times in the cycle, but those events only come up once every 7 to 10 years. So outside of those big global events that happen once every 7 to 10 years, the next best opportunity is probably when things like elections come up, when there's major changes like the Royal Banking Commission, for example, that made lending harder, kept a lot of people on the sidelines. When the government it was only a year and a half ago, was saying they were going to scrap negative gearing, that had a big short-term effect. A few years before that, some guy got on TV and said the market was going to drop by 60%, freaked everyone out, including me, for about 3 months. And then the next best opportunity than that, if you're just buying as a long-term investor, is strategically looking at the Australian market and going, you know, Hobart's going off its head right now. For example, in 2020, it went up by almost 10%. But Brisbane, which has a long-term history of performance in the same year, only went up by, 0 to 2%. So it's like sort of looking at the markets that aren't quite as hot and the suburbs within that market that aren't quite as hot, and then picking out the eyes and taking advantage, as a sophisticated investor that follows the cycle around.
The good thing is there's actually a few different data points that you can look at online to get a better understanding of how hot a market actually is. So this is things like the demand to supply ratio, the auction clearance rates, and the days on market. So let's break them down in a bit more detail, starting with DSR.
So a really, really dead, quiet market would have a DSR score of below 55 out of 100. A market that's starting to get some demand but it hasn't resulted in price growth yet would be between 55 and 70. And once it gets over 70, that would be more like a hotter market that you're starting to see some capital growth on. That is a really easy thing to find. Just Google, your suburb, Cronulla Beach plus DSR score, and you should be able to find it in Google for free. Auction clearance rates are the same. I think when auction clearance rates get above 70% in a city, it's starting to get hot. When they're getting to 80, 85%, you're going to pay way more than the property's worth, but that's normally a sign that things are on the upper.
With auction clearance rates, it's important to understand that in Sydney and Melbourne, it's really popular to go to auction, so it gives you a bit more clarity as to how hot a market actually is down there. But if you were to look at Brisbane, it's not very common for people to go to auction up here, so you may have a really low auction clearance rate, but the DSR score could be really high. So you just got to get that balance between them.
And that's such a good point, man, because we're seeing that at the moment. Like there's suburbs with DSR scores at almost 80% that we're buying, but then the auction clearance rate is still 32% over the weekend.
Exactly.
So really important to take these different data points and look at the big picture. The other one's days on market.
Yeah.
Now, again, in different cities around Australia, the average settlement time is different. So settlements could be 45 to 60 days in New South Wales, where in Queensland they might be 30 to 45. But it's an indicator that, again, you can Google for free, like Cronulla Beach plus days on market, and you'll find that the lower the number of days on market, the hotter the market actually is at that time.
Yeah, so don't create a strategy or just be like, I want to go buy a property and I need to buy it under market value, because, you know, sometimes it's not always going to be the case. And just because you can't buy a property under market value, it doesn't mean that it isn't a bad time to buy. It just means that that might be a slightly hotter market, and you've just got to change your negotiation strategy coming into that.
Without a doubt. So let's talk about how we find as a business often pre-market listings, which is one of the best ways to get something cheaper than it's really worth.
No doubt about it. Getting through that property before the average is so powerful, and it's really helped us since the market started to heat up in late 2020, early 2021 this year. So building relationships with the top performing agents has been an absolute godsend for us over the last 6 years. So you can actually find out who the top performing agents are in a certain area by going on to ratemyagent.com.au, typing in the postcode, typing in the suburb, and it'll give you a breakdown of how many properties these guys have sold, the reviews from people that have worked with them, and you get a pretty good understanding. Now, to us, we see the top performing agents simply as whoever sold the most properties in the area. You know, they're the top performers because they're getting the most deals over the line. Now, you get in contact with these agents, give them a call, you know, take them out for a coffee, or, you know, just have a bit of a chat with them, let them know what you're looking for, and go, hey, I'd love to go into your pipeline, and let me know when you've got a property coming to market or something that's off market, because sometimes in certain situations, people don't actually really want to go to the market. We find this the case for maybe deceased estates, or when there's been a bit of conflict when they're selling the house. So generally you can get in there, and they're the types of opportunities where you might be able to find a pretty damn good deal.
You know, I'm looking at the properties. I think Taylor and Hayden this morning found 7 properties that we're going to inspect tomorrow.
Wow.
Of those 7, 3 are off market, and I'm already looking at them. They're already $10,000 to $15,000 cheaper than they would be if the agent literally put it on realestate.com.
Yeah, exactly. So that one's really simple and a huge asset if you're going out there to buy an investment property, especially if you're looking in an area that you're not too familiar with. Make sure that you build some rapport and a nice relationship with these agents.
One of the big ones that I think people make a massive mistake on, myself included when I was starting to invest, is thinking that realestate.com is actually market value. For example, you might be looking at St Kilda in Melbourne, right? And if you were to look at the average vendor discount, which is another indicator of supply and demand in an area, in an expensive suburb like St Kilda for houses where you might pay $1.5 to $2 million for a home, the average vendor discount could be as much as 15%.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 15% on $2 million is $300K. If you're sitting there on realestate.com and going, not understanding average vendor discounts when you're negotiating, then you could think that this $2 million place that you bought for $1.9 million is a bargain because you've got it for $100K, when they would have actually sold it to you for 1.7 mil. That is absolutely vital. I had no idea about it. I thought I was such like the expert on the market when I used to like play around on realestate.com all night. And now I realize that the truth is in the sold section of realestate.com.
Yeah.
And in RP data if you want to pay for that service. It's got every single sale there, or realestate.com doesn't, but RP data does. And you can see the true value of what's selling in the current market.
You know, you're going up against a pro. These real estate agents have generally been working in the industry for a while. They know how to negotiate. They know how to get that emotion going. They know how to bring you up. So you need to understand exactly where market value lies in that particular area and for that particular property, because, you know, you could go on there and you could see a certain listing price and it may represent value, but, you know, it could just be some negotiation strategy that the real estate agent is using. So make sure that you spend a lot of time on that sold section in realestate.com, or if you've got a subscription to RP Data, you get much more detailed information on there about the sales history, so you can understand exactly where that lies. Because I've seen people right now, especially in a hot market, people paying 20 all the way up to $60,000 over market value because they just don't know where market value truly is.
You got to stop doing that with your own properties you're buying, bro. No, all of Simon's deals have been good. I'm the one that bloody overpays all the time.
It's because I'm buying the crap houses and you're buying the blue chip stuff.
The last one, and I think this is the most important and underrated tip, also the tip that's most unspoken about in the industry, is the art of negotiation. Now, we both read a book multiple times called Power Negotiations by Roger Dawson. I highly recommend it. If you want to be an investor or a business person in the future, it's an absolute must read with so many good tips.
I just think for anybody in life, it just, life is sales. You're always trying to sell something.
You don't want to go around to your mother-in-law's place for dinner and you've got to negotiate with your wife. It's helpful as well.
Or with the in-laws, but
No, jokes aside, we have a very, very clear negotiation process and strategy, which I'll break down in a moment. We've also done much deeper videos back in our YouTube channel. If you want to go find them, just go to the Pumped on Property channel and search in the search bar of the channel negotiations, and some really good stuff will come up. But we use in a hot market what I call the 2 negotiation strategy, and in the cold market the 3-step negotiation strategy. So 2 steps looks like this. I call the agent and I say, we've got a client, or let's say I'm doing it for myself. I'll say, I'm really interested in the property. I've been looking at the market for a while. I'm pre-approved because I never go and look at the market without actually knowing what I can borrow. I'm a pre-approved position. This is exactly what I'm looking for. And then I say, tell me a little bit more about the property. Why are they selling it? What are they looking to achieve for it? And they'll never give you the right information at that point. And then I say, what's your plan for actually selling this property? If I place an offer today, how are we going to be able to get this done before someone else comes over the top? And so they'll normally at that point let me know. And then regardless of what they said, I always go in with an initial offer with a good price in a hot market, because if you're too far below, you're going to miss the property completely, with really, really strong terms that I've talked to my solicitor about, so I legally know what to put down. And then I know that's going to be rejected. And then what I do is I get the feedback from the agent after they've spoke to their client. I ask the same question again. We're close. What's the plan for negotiating it? And the reason I'm asking the agent that is because most agents completely negotiate off the cuff, where when they're repeating their plan back to me, it means when they go and sit down with their client, they've actually got a plan. And if their plan isn't solid enough, I'm going to educate them on what that should be as we go. And we'll talk about that in future vids. But then I come in based on the agent's counter offer with my best offer and my best terms, and I pressure the shit out of them. I'm talking 3 text messages, 3 calls a day until they get the job done. And that's the 2-step process. The only thing that changes in a slower market is
a 3-step strategy, which unfortunately right now we're not really having the opportunity to do much of this.
Australia's too hot right now to do this.
It's just way too hot at the moment. But a 3-step strategy essentially starts with a really low ball offer with really crappy terms.
50, 100 grand below the asking price.
Still getting the feedback from the agent, going, okay, where are we at? How are we going to work here? Most of the time you're going to get laughed off the phone after the first offer. But, this isn't an emotional thing to us. It's really strategic, and we know that that's not going to get accepted. So you don't take any offense to that. Then you come in with a slightly better offer with much better terms, making things look a little bit better, knowing that you've got a bit more room to move with the price, but terms are starting to look good. And this makes the agent look like they're doing their job really well to the sellers as well, because every single time they're getting a new offer, they're coming in with something really good to sell to the sellers. Then essentially, once you've got that final feedback and we know exactly where it needs to be, come in with your best offer, with your best terms, and then wrap the deal up in the exact same way. So it's just adding in one additional little step, which is a lower offer, just to kind of let them know that you're interested, but it's on your terms.
For sure. Now, I'm working with a client, Marcus and Tammy, at the moment. Absolute legends. They're from Melbourne, both working in really, really good jobs, and they're sophisticated investors with great properties in Melbourne. We found the perfect property on a 1,000 square metre block for them last week, and it had a really nice home, but the problem was the price online was too high. And so it was sitting at $650,000, and I thought the value of the property was about $630,000. So what I've done is I've jumped on the listing on realestate.com in terms of our negotiation strategy in real life. I've opened the listing, and the first thing I've thought is, oh no, because the agent selling it only sells 4 houses in the last year. So I've just immediately, because I've clicked on the agent's profile and seen the number of sales he's made, gone, shit, like this is going to be hard to get done. The reason the property's online, because top performers never place a property online for the wrong amount. They always price it at market value or slightly below, because they know they want to attract as many people as possible to make their life easy. Where shitty agents that don't sell stuff will say anything they can to get the listing, and that's why they're always high, and then they don't know how to bring the person back down to earth. So what I've had to do, even though the market's hot, I've gone, this property is so high that it's not going to sell at this price, and it's going to miss a lot of people because of that, and it hasn't. It's been 5 days since we've seen it, and it still hasn't sold yet. They still haven't got other offers on it that haven't been significantly lower. Which
is rare. You know, 5 days on market right now is long.
In this suburb, properties would sell in 2 hours of coming online, if not before, to someone like us. So what we've come in at is a really low initial offer at $605K with really good terms. And then I've just sat it there, and I haven't answered the agent's call over the weekend, and that was the plan we had with the client. We're just not going to engage. I've called the agent on Monday, and I'm like, hey mate, how'd you go? What feedback do you have? He's like, haven't even seen the client yet. He's got an offer in his hand for $600K that he legally needs to present, and this punter hasn't even gone out and seen the client yet. So I'm like, okay, this is yesterday, go and see them. Didn't get any feedback yesterday. I've called his boss this morning, and his boss is stepping in, who sells 50 properties a year. And I've said, can you just help me get this done? So he is. And the boss has talked to them for 1 minute on the phone, come back with the worst thing they can do, but it's still better than nothing. And they've said $645K. And I've just gone, mate, we're so far apart here. And he's like, Ben, we're only 40K apart. And I'm like, no, you're still like so far above market value. I'm trying to set his expectations that it's going to be significantly lower than that. We're definitely prepared to pay more. In fact, we're prepared to pay a lot more. But I've said to him that this is our next best offer. This is our best and final. I know it's not. We're going to use a 3-step process here, but I'm putting massive pressure on him so that he can start to put that urgency on the seller. Now, I think what's going to happen here is they're going to get very, very close to where we're at and think we're going to meet in the middle. And maybe we will, or maybe we'll just put massive pressure on them to close it up. But that is like the art and science of negotiations. It can be very frustrating if you're emotionally attached to it. It can be very fun if you just do it for a job and you're not attached to the outcome, except to get the best result for the client every time.
Exactly. And it's really fun, you know. To us, it's a bit of a game, and we, you know, love that sort of competition. But for yourself, if you're looking at buying a property, you know, you're in a position where you can save tens of thousands of dollars potentially. So, you know, go out there, spend a couple of hours reading The Secrets of Power Negotiating by Roger Dawson. Learn how to do this sort of stuff. Research the market, because you're going to be saving yourself a buttload of cash. So, you know, go out there, invest safe, use these different tips to help buy these properties under market value. If you are looking to get into the market at the moment and you aren't the best negotiator maybe, or you're looking for a little bit of support, then, you know, we do actually offer some support as a buyer's agent for people looking at properties in the Brisbane market. And if you want to get that conversation started, if you're ready to purchase a property up here, then head over to our website, www.pumpedonproperty.com, and lock in a free strategy session with either Ben or myself. And, you know, we'll start talking you through that plan and help you put that in place. And then maybe we can end up holding your hand through that.
You know, I get so excited. We're not going to wipe that out. That's just saying.
It was a fly.
We get super excited about this stuff. Like my job in the business at the moment is to support our clients to buy properties. My sister helps with that as well, but she's on maternity leave at the moment. We've got other people that do it too. But, you know, I'm just looking down the barrel of this week. We found 7 incredible properties, and I just can't wait for Wednesday, which is negotiation day, to like get incredible properties bought that align with our clients' long-term values of capital growth, of strong cash flow, of buying the right market at the right time. And then, you know, those clients will slowly pay off those properties over the long term, create a passive income stream for life, and get choices sooner. And that's what it's all about. Now, you don't have to be a professional negotiator. You don't have to buy 120 to 150 properties a year like Simon and I do to be great at this. You just have to have a plan, have a strategy, know the market, and then do your best. And as Tony Robbins says, like, don't get too emotionally tied to the outcome, because that's the downfall when you're doing this stuff. And that's why people constantly overpay. And that's why the market is ever increasing in value, because of that human desire to get something done easy, quickly, and the biases that come with investing a lot of time in this stuff. So separate yourself from it, have a bit of fun with it, and hopefully you save some big bucks. And, you know, I think about it like you said, you know, if my hourly rate's $100 an hour and I can negotiate well in a couple of days and save 30K, that is the best money that I'll ever make and save in my life. And that's why this stuff's so important. So we wish you all the best.
Thanks, guys.
Sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good.